Something fell down from my from my shelf.
Jeez.
Let him speak.
How's it going, guys?
It's going good.
Hey,
Hey there.
good. We're all here.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the live of the Dare to Compare 1995 Marvel Masterpieces. You probably already know we got the artist from that set here, but what you may not know is we are at OAX and we are in a room of Marvel card art, original art, which is really incredible. But we all know this Marvel card art has been really influenced by 1995 because that is the set that brought us 4 different Marvel Masterpieces artists. And we got them here live on the screen. Guys, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. In fairness, I can barely see the screen here, but I've got you here. So I may be turning to look at you right here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So that I can see you and watch your reaction. But first of all, thank you as an individual fan of the Marvel cards. Really appreciate you being here. But we also have guests here in the room. So we may be asking some questions from them from the live audience. But I just wanted to get you to each introduce yourself, and we'll just start. We'll go around. We'll start with Dimitri Patelis first. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. This is Dimitri here. I'm in Greece right now, so a little bit of a time difference, but we're good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being here all the way from Greece.
Yep.
All right, Peter.
Pete Scanlon, good to see all of you, or not see you, but good to be here. I don't know what else can I say. I'm still alive, and I'm happy to talk to you.
We're happy you're here. Thank you. And then we got Dave DeVries. Dave, did I say your name correctly? Please let me know if I did.
Yeah, you said it right, DeVries. I mean, it's everybody mangles it. Don't worry about it, but you got it right. So points for you. Yeah. I'm basically in the same time zone as both Nelson and Pete. We're all pretty close to each other in New Jersey, New York. So happy to be here. Happy to be at the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for making time to be here. And Nelson, I want you to give us an introduction.
Hey guys, I'm Nelson Faro de Castro, and coming to you from Queens, New York. By the way, Pete, lives in the town where I grew up in now.
Cool.
So we have a little bit of a New York, New Jersey thing going on. I'm still alive, still drawing, painting, and teaching as well. And I miss the old masterpiece days. And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Being you all mentioned being alive, I learned today that these are tombstones on your paintings. And I didn't know that was a reference for paintings. These are little plaques with the information on it.
Oh.
So I didn't know that was a term in the art world. So I thought that was pretty cool.
They call them tombstones?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not ready to go just yet. I'm still kicking. Right?
Absolutely. Your art is very much still alive and well, not in our memory, but in this room right here. And people still, collect and pursue these cards at a really high level. But I'm really curious because I've been watching you back behind the scenes and seeing you interact together. Like, what is it like for you four to get back together? And do you do that very often?
I think this is the first time for me. Well, me and Dave have done something once.
Well, we've done shows back in the day after the cards came out. We were contracted to do some appearances together. I remember.
Oh yeah.
Right, Dimitri, like Chicago Comic-Con.
We did the San Diego one. The San Diego one.
Yeah.
And then I think after that,
time-wise,
what's that?
What's the frame of reference time-wise for that?
That was probably like just after the cards came out. So it was like 95, 96.
96, I think, was San Diego.
I think so. And then I think they probably had a second set after that where they were promoting different artists, I think maybe. So then, I think ever since then, we maybe see each other on and off, one or two people here or there. Yeah.
But generally, I think me and Nelson, I've bumped into you more times than the other guys.
Right.
So because we were doing a lot of the New York shows and stuff.
Yeah.
But me, Pete, and Nelson, we got together down in Florida for the Tampa show about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we had been together. And Dimitri was in Canada at that point, and he couldn't come down. So we just kind of soldiered on and had got together. It was really good because we hadn't seen each other in like 27, 28 years. It was crazy, and we still, as this is the first time the four of us have been at least on screen in that amount of time.
Yeah. This was special already, but now it's really, really special.
Yeah.
And super grateful to have you here. So thank you for that.
Yep.
I have a question for you about your process with your art. You know, for those who may not know, with 95 Marvel Masterpieces, I know you guys obviously know, you were given characters and you got to paint them, and you all have very different styles. So I wanted to go to each one of you and ask you, what was your process like back in 1995 when you were painting the art back then? And why don't we start? We'll start with Nelson, and then we'll go back around counterclockwise. Is that all right?
Sounds
Sure.
good.
The process is, I guess, I mean, they just gave us a list. We weren't really allowed to choose, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's a Galactus piece, which I hate. It was just the composition was too boring and straight on. It should have been sort of this, he's such a towering, even in his physical size, the guy eats worlds. Going back later on, I realized I should have been like this really kind of upward 3-point perspective kind of thing to get that massiveness. But you were just like, all right, what's the concept? What's the idea? And I thought if he was just so big that he could almost just hold the planet in his hands, because the being is technically incomprehensible to the human mind. It's such a vast entity, right? That the projection of the Galactus as we know him is really just for our benefit, that we can interact with it, right? But the thing was, like, how do you capture the character, right? So like the Doctor Doom one was like the broken mirror, and you couldn't see as he took the plate off, he's all disfigured. So I thought this idea of him like smashing the mirror because of his disfigured face, like, does that say something about Doctor Doom that's pertinent to his character, right? And that, I think that was the toughest part, to come up with something that really sold that character in one quick, simple image. And sometimes you didn't have that. And if you're doing a photorealistic painting, you needed like reference too. So it was a question of like, what reference could you get? Even if you did something like the Rhino has a cartoonishly exaggerated physique. Yes, that's the one right there. So you couldn't see his face, but you could see the face mask and then the broken pieces of mirror behind him. Right? Does that send an image, send an idea of who this character is, what he's ashamed of or angry about, or so it became a combination of things. If you had to do a photorealistic image, could you get the photo reference that you needed? And some characters you didn't even really know well. You had to kind of look it up or ask some of the editors, like, what does this guy do? Oh, he does. That's his power. I've never heard of it. All right, whatever. Right. And then you had to maybe read some comics and look it up. And so it was tough. And I think everyone approached it differently based on like what your strengths are, kind of stuff. And I thought, before the superhero movies were a big thing and you could see the characters brought to life very realistically with the costumes and stuff, at that time, realistic impressions of cartoon characters that most people had known only from comic books were kind of really cool, because they've never really seen that before. I think now it's a little different with all the Marvel movies and these amazing 3D CGI things and stuff like that. But I tried to bring it to life, tried to make it as real. Yeah, I didn't know much about Apocalypse, and they said it's like a time travel thing. So I said, okay, castle, skyscrapers, weird futuristic cities.
I love that one.
And I tried to do a little bit of a Simon Bisley rip, because that was kind of the look I think it kind of fell into at the time and stuff. So it's a question of how, number one, are they okay with your idea? Right. Do you have what you might need to finish it? And do you have the time?
Well, Nelson, I know you were attempting to tell a story, and maybe you didn't know much about the character, but the way you told it became the story for us. So because that was really an introduction, and for many of us, to the character for the first time.
Yeah, so you got to get it right. That's another thing, right? So you got to really like ask around, and most of the characters, thank God, Marvel, you know who they are, but every now and then, I mean, it was 50 characters for each of us. Right. So, there's bound to be one or two that you weren't familiar with from some new comic book that's now popular. You didn't read it,
Nelson, so Dave, we got what we affectionately call a Spidey head around here.
I love that piece.
Yeah, that is.
I love the foreshortening on that.
So that was scary good.
far as the process goes, so like a lot of my style came from a birthday gift. Well, no, it didn't, because it started in college. I've always wanted to do like things that are kind of like jumping out or like extreme foreshortening, because I was influenced by a number of artists. Mark Fredrickson is an advertising artist, and he did these like wicked foreshortening. And I just wanted to bring some of that into like the comics, like I know they already did that, right? But it, like Kirby was doing that as well, but Fredrickson pushed it even further.
Foreshortening,
like extreme, like when somebody's like this, like hold on.
Oh, I got you.
Thank you. Yeah. So like that Kirby kind of hand is something that like, yeah. So it's like I was always kind of like going for like, I wanted each card when you're like going through the deck to really like, grab you. Cause I knew I knew the fact that like the card is small. If it's a poster, you can get away with a lot of intricacies and small stuff and subtleties and stuff. And so my process for doing the cards was to do, that kind of in your face thing, because I wanted to grab your attention in a quick, cause you rifle through. I mean, you remember when you were a kid, you were like, got it, don't got it, got it, and I wanted people to stop. Right. And some of them are better than others. As you can see, I probably didn't like that one.
I love that one. You shut up. Shut up. I love that one.
Just a little aside, I don't know, do you know the artist Tom Fleming?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so Spider-Man is Tom Fleming. He posed for that. Tom and I went to college.
Tom?
And yeah, that's Tom Fleming. That's literally him. He posed for that, and he like balancing on his butt cheek on a ladder. I had him up
the Titanic scene.
Like, what?
Draw me like you draw your French ladies.
No. No.
Okay, good.
No, but so basically, because Tom and I, like, we went to college together, and then he was in Westchester, and I was in Jersey, and I would just drive out there and go, Tom, I need reference. I drive out there and take pictures, right? So I remember he balanced up on a step ladder, a 6-foot step ladder, just like on a butt cheek, and he's got his arms out and his leg out like that, and that was really helpful to have that reference, right? So
wow.
So what I was saying about a gift is my wife Michelle, I think when we first met, she got me a 19mm photo lens. So prior to that, I was trying to do those foreshortening things, and I was just making it up, and then she got me this lens. And it's like a fisheye lens, but it's not a true fisheye. And I remember walking around the house just like looking through the lens, like, in my camera, seeing how everything distorted and stuff. And it kind of made it like things like that painting possible, because it's more realistic than the stuff I was doing prior. So, and one of the interesting things is when I did that painting, right, I was freaking out with the time. How like, all right, so I was doing a painting every 2 weeks. Suddenly I got to do a painting, 1.5 paintings a week. So I'm freaking out. By the end, I had it down, but in the beginning, and so this was about midway. And what I used to do was I used to take the paintings. That's one of those characters I didn't know who he was, like Nelson. He was telling me. Anyway, that's not Nelson. But the point of the matter that I was getting to was that, like, I was freaking out about the process. It was taking too long. So I don't know about you guys, but I used to do a drawing, ink it on the board. Then I'd go over it with a dark tone of brown, right? And you have to now paint everything back out, right? All your lights, all your mediums, right? You leave your darks, whatever. But like, it took a long time. And so I freaked out and called Bill Sienkiewicz, because I had his number, and he said, yeah, give me a call anytime. And I was just like, well, this is going to be one of those times. I just pick up the phone. Like, he doesn't really know me that well. And that's to speak to how awesome Bill is. He's just the nicest guy. He's a good dude, man. And I called him up. And I'm like, Bill, I'm having trouble with doing this technique. And he goes, well, why don't you try using like a lighter ground color, and then use more like transparent colors and stuff, and build. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that, Bill. Can I come up to your studio? And he's just like, no, you can do it. You could. Like I totally get why. Like it was like, because I was out of my head, and and he was right. I just buckled down, I sat down, and I painted. And what I did is I used a yellow color over everything. So now you don't have to paint as thick to get all your, all the tones. And I always joke with Ray Lago. I'm name dropping like crazy. I always joke with Ray Lago that leg on the front is a Ray Lago leg. It's if you ever look at it and you look at Ray's work, there's such a it only happened because I was doing that style with that technique. And Ray, of course, goes, well, maybe I could see that. Maybe, and it is
pretty good impression.
By the way, Ray was on the channel with Tom. So these are great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Ray and Tom are really good friends, and that's the thing about like all this community is that, I could talk to these guys about stuff, and they're the only human beings on the planet that can kind of give me the kind of feedback I need, right? Because we're all like doing this specific style, doing this specific kind of thing. And it really is a blessing to have these guys to bounce ideas off of and talk to them when I need them. So
that is wonderful. Dave, thank you.
Yep.
So Peter, we're going to get to yours, and I have, tell us about your process, and I'm going to show you this.
Okay, I'm going to take a page out of Nelson's book and say that's not one of my favorite paintings, but I'm so glad that someone bought it, and I don't want to talk smack about it because it seems rude when someone buys your painting. You're like, let me tell you why it sucks. So I'm not going to do that, but it's good.
Well, the good news is everybody else loves it. So
that makes me feel great. But process-wise, when I got the job, much like these other guys, the speed that we had to do this, like I look at it now, and obviously I'm much older and stuff, but I have no idea how we did this. I really don't. Like I'd love to get another shot at doing it again, so I'm sure I'd figure it out. But the speed and the intensity was fast and intense. And I was coming from basically, I hadn't done any. I love comics. I grew up on comics, but I hadn't actually worked in comics. I was an illustrator doing like science fiction, fantasy book covers, and record album covers and stuff like that. But so I had that speed, which was like maybe I'd have 3 weeks or a month to do a painting for like a book cover or something. And then also I did a lot of editorial illustration, which was like much quicker. Like I did one job every Thursday where they'd call me on the phone at 4:30 in the afternoon, and the job was due at Friday at 4:30 in the afternoon. So I had 24 hours to do it. And that was a much smaller, not nearly as good painting. So, that one too. They use that one everywhere.
We don't want to just have only Spotty up here. Well, I did, but others didn't.
There was in a lot of the ads for the set, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, they put that on the box and everything.
And Dave's Wolverine, I know, had also. I think that was in a lot of the box imagery.
Yeah, the box. This is the box art.
It's cool when they put your stuff on like a box because then they used it everywhere. So then you were quite omnipresent. So that was fantastic. But like, so I had to come up with a technique that was kind of a hybrid of the two things, like kind of in between the advertising stuff or not advertising, the editorial stuff that was, quicker. And find like a middle ground. So I did this thing where I would do all my paintings just as flat colors. So I'd almost draw them like simply as like almost like a color by numbers, but not just the big shapes. Because since they're so small, they have to work as a strong design, so you have to have the basic like macro shapes, like the big shapes, working. So if you painted in all the flat, like, so for instance, Spider-Man there, like that whole wall would have been like one flat, like amber color. The blue on him would have been just flat blue, no details. The red would be just flat, everything would be just flat colors at first. And that way you kind of see if it's working, hopefully. Sometimes it would get past you, but at least then you can kind of have once you see his flat colors, you look and you're like, oh man, this is all askew or whatever. And then once I had that part done, I could actually have like I had my mother who was, she was like kind of elderly, but she was still alive back then. And I had her coming over and painting like flat colors. I had my wife painting flat colors. So I mix all the colors and have other people sometimes do like the flat colors. And then on top of that, I would draw the details and then paint it.
So you're a cheater, is what you're saying. You cheated.
It's called the studio system. It's
well, no, that's like it's like a Gustave Doré thing. He had like 40 people in the studio doing,
Rubens. Come on.
That's it.
And so for that one, that was much the same, just like these guys said. I mean, it was just to try to figure out who the character was. And I always find even now, like if you get the quick sketch often that's what has all the power, and then you have to try to make it into a more finished thing that isn't so like everybody doesn't get made out of concrete, because when you put all the details in, everything like freezes up. So just trying to do something that's decent, and then hopefully they would accept it. And in my experience, they didn't mess with. I didn't have much, probably because they knew there was no time. The only time they messed with me was I was so insane. I did one on the computer, like it was Marvel Masterpieces, and I loved using Photoshop. Like Photoshop was relatively new, and I was like, oh, let me just do it in Photoshop. And I sent that in. They're like, what are you doing? You can't do this in Photoshop.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Wow.
In 1995, you did a digital original art for Masterpieces, and then you sent it in to see if it would be accepted?
Yes.
And they did not accept it.
They did accept it, actually. They used it. It was, I think
Which,
it was.
Which one?
I think it was a picture of a Shatterstar, actually.
Wow, this is breaking news.
Yeah. Because they did the whole flare set, and I wasn't a big, nothing against the flare artist. I just, but a lot of stuff, I just wasn't as into that. And so I just was kind of like almost trying out for it. Like, I could do this too. And then of course, as soon as our set was done, Marvel imploded. So yeah, that's
you did this in Photoshop in 95.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Wow. Is it partially done in Photoshop or the full thing from start to finish?
It's totally Photoshop.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they told me to stop doing that.
You cheater. Good night.
No wonder I can't find it.
Well, the thing is, it's like, you lose your saleability afterwards.
Well, so yeah, I really would love to have that topic with you guys on another stream, because I think it's really important. So maybe you're up to it. Peter, way ahead of your time. The digital art is widely accepted in many forms now, but not Masterpieces. Masterpieces is very much about the illustrator and the original art, and not to say there's not an originalness to that, but people want to be able to hold it and touch it.
I totally understand what they were saying, and honestly, like my takeaway from the story isn't like what was wrong with Marvel. My takeaway was like what a goof I was. Of course that's not allowed. Like the fact that I would assume it was is the ridiculous part. So.
And I can't imagine that it was actually faster for you unless you were already in it. So
I don't know.
That's incredible. I'm just thinking about the speed of a computer in 95. So all right. Peter, thank you. That was really awesome. Dimitri. Hey, brother.
Yep. Hey. Well, mine was a.
Let me show you a piece, and then you get started.
Which one you got there? Okay, yeah, that was that one I like. I could say that. Yeah, when I did a lot of I remember the Silver Surfer from the comic books, but Jose asked me what I had to say about that painting and how I felt about it. Like I used to race BMX bikes, and we used to love the chrome on them, and that's what he reminded me of. And I used to basically just ride all day long, and go to the track and do these crazy jumps, and that's what it reminded me of when this guy's like just cruising around and carefree and go anywhere he wanted. And that's what it reminded me of, like when I was like 10 years younger. That's how I felt. So when I did him, I go I saw all these other interpretations, all these other versions from all these other great artists. I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to top this? And when I got the gig, I had only done one comic book art character ever, and it was the Carnage that was used on the Ultra Fleer Spider-Man. And that was done for some young guy that had a comic book store, and he wanted a painting. And all I used to draw is like monochromatic paintings, maybe with a tint of blue and turquoise in it, but that was it. Didn't use color, rarely. And from that painting, that was the painting that Bill James saw a poster at a convention in New York. And he said, I want to buy that from you. And I was like, I'll give you $1,500, he said. I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, all right. Well, I brought it to New York to sell it for over $2,000. And I didn't have a penny in my name. I don't know where, I think a rough night, basically from the night before, basically gave me some extra, guts there to basically say something like that. And I was, and he said, how about I give you a gig for 65 paintings for $2,000 a pop? And what was crazy about that is like, I go like, all right, that's a very generous offer. I'll have my agent call you. I didn't have an agent, guys. I had met Leslie Barony that passed away a couple of years ago. That he had seen me in a previous show, and he gave me 2 of his cards, and he said, "You might need these one day." So I pulled one of these cards out of my wallet, and I gave it to Bill James, and I said, "I'll have my agent call you." It was just crazy. And he says, "I'm Bill James. I'm the president of Fleer and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, okay, that's great. So I pulled it off up till there. He asked me, "Can you do comic book characters?" And I, kind of like, the arrogance and the youthfulness in me and, kind of cocky, basically turned around like, "Are you kidding me?" It just, I didn't say it that way. The expression. And I said, I pointed back to the painting that he wanted. So that's how it started. It was kind of crazy. It was like a series of events that brought me there, which, because I read Spider-Man growing up. Then I moved on to, Conan the Barbarian with Just Go covers. And that was what drove me to start drawing, and I was influenced by Ernst Fuchs, which this guy, I think, influenced Giger. So that's why my work, that early work, that airbrush work, that black and white palette came from there. And but when we got like we didn't get an okay. They sent me 2 test pieces to do, and one was Locus, and I think Sauron was the next one. But Locus was in I think an Ultra Fleer or Fleer X-Men, I think, a 95 set. So the thing I didn't know.
How many? I think we all got warmed up on that Fleer Ultra X-Men first, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was for me, I think it was they did mention it, that it was a test run.
Right.
They wanted to see what I can do. Now, I didn't know that everybody was painting smaller. So I had the standard Fabriano paper, watercolor paper they used to buy that was 22 by 30 inches. So I was making these enormous paintings. And I did that piece, and I still have that one. And it was, I had no ventilation. I was wearing these, rinky-dink, like masks that people wear when they're doing woodworking, and stuff like that. So, I would wake up the next morning and I'd be coughing out all these colors, blowing my nose, and, greens and pinks were coming out. It was just crazy. But then one day I met Dave I bumped into Dave, and Dave goes like, we were in between, I think, the show. I think it was San Diego. Mm-hmm. In between the contract, and Dave goes like, "No, my paintings are smaller," and I think he pointed to I can't remember.
That's the only way I could get them done fast enough.
Well, the airbrush does help, like cover a lot, but it's still like, it helps with detail, making it larger, but then you're still filling out, quite some, so I went half size then, and that's where the Silver Surfer is half that size. I think it's 15 by 22, the actual paper on it.
Yeah, you can really get a sense of the scale.
And the thing that I had to learn really fast was comic book characters. Dave mentioned foreshortening. I had no clue because I wasn't classically trained. I'm self-taught, so I had to look at all these killer artists, and it was a shock, and at that time, when I wanted to paint, like, let's say as an illustrator, it would probably be in the style of Nelson. Yeah. Like how I would want it to do at that time, but what had grabbed my attention, grabbed my attention the most was Dave's work. I had seen some prior stuff. It was like a Wolverine and a Sauron and some other Wolverine that he had that's coming at you. And I go like, and then they told me, well, this is one of the other guys that's on the set. And I'm like, holy crap, you know, and I was like, how am I gonna do this? So Les Barony did a fantastic thing. He managed to bring together all this material and reference stuff, and he started sending me books, catalogs, photos. He was a tremendous help in the whole process. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, Dimitri, you actually bring up a question I want to ask, and I've got about 3 more questions, but we have a limited amount of time, but I would like to get to them. And the first question is, the weight of the previous artists, being Just Go, all the incredible artists in '93, and then of course you have the Hildebrands, who were, already just insanely popular at that time, and then you get the request to do masterpieces. What was that? What was the weight of that? How did that feel to you when it came to you thinking through, hey, is my art going to stand up to it?
Well, look, as I said earlier, I was very young, very naive. I don't think it hit me till I started doing the work. And Les Barony basically really walked me through it, and he basically pointed out, this is like a lifetime opportunity here. This is really big for you. You need to really pull this off.
Yeah, 30 years from now, doing interviews at original art cons about it. Yeah.
And so it was. I think it hit me more after I finished the set.
Yeah.
I think after I finished the set, I had like almost like a breakdown. I put all the paintings on the floor that I'd completed, and it was shocking to me.
Yeah.
I didn't do any work for 6 months after that.
Yeah, makes sense. Peter, same question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of thing where the deadlines, the pressure was so intense that it almost wasn't time to think about that. But at the same time, like I know when I was that age, and hopefully still now, I mean, every time I do something, I wanted to knock it out of the park if I possibly could. And it didn't always work, obviously, but and speaking of Hildebrands, they were always childhood heroes of mine. And I'm ashamed to say I can never remember if it was Tim or Greg, but when I was in high school, I went to a comic book convention in it was the one in the hotel in New York across from right by Penn Station.
Hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And I went there kind of with them because my high school girlfriend's sister was going out with I don't even know. Somehow I got to go kind of with them in a way.
Yeah.
And he was so nice. He took my crappy high school pen and ink drawings that I'd done of like barbarians and Conan and whatever, and he put them next to their paintings. so it was like I got to be like displayed as if I was a serious artist when I was just a punk kid. So I have such great respect for them as artists and just as human beings, wonderful people. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was the pressure was a lot, but it was just so day to day. It's just every day, just trying to like do what you had to do to survive till the end of the day, and hopefully produce something that would get you not fired. And again, I started with that same X-Men set, and I was just did nothing but work on that, got rid of all of the work, and I had no idea that it was a tryout. I just thought I was just trying to do I got 9 cards, and at the end of it they offered me the job. So I guess I didn't realize we all had that same tryout. That's very, very interesting.
That is awesome. Dave, and then Nelson.
So the first card I did for any trading card was the Wolverine Sauron, and took me 2 weeks.
Wow.
It took me 2 weeks to do.
Yeah.
So my whole thing going into the set was more just terror. How am I going to get this done? But like, all right. So, the thing about like the way I work is the fact that like, I've always been insecure about like, like I look at people like, people who paint more realistically. And I feel like, people look at my work and they go, yeah, you don't paint as good as those guys, like, and that's in the back of my head all the time. So it's like, because a lot of people will go like, oh yeah, Dave DeVries, he's kind of an acquired taste. It's like it's not like it's so like that's kind of the thing that was going into the set, feeling like, oh, Just Go. Yeah, I'm not painting like Just Go because I can't paint like. And as a matter of fact, I only learned to paint when I was 21. Prior to that, I'd never painted before. So like I was still learning how to paint. And so like as I'm learning to paint, I'm painting the set, you know, so that there was huge leaps and bounds. Like I painted the cable piece without the airbrush. And then after the cable piece, I think it was the Hulk piece, I started to use the airbrush, and it was just like, it was a whole like paradigm shift for me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just struggling to get by. I've got this thing in my head going, and let me get this straight. The Hildebrands are beasts when they're painting. Their stuff, their command of color and value is just unparalleled. So like you know, to be able to think, okay, here's a beam that's going down from a light or a light beam, right? They'll paint each individual thing. They'll mix the right color and paint the beam piece by piece all the way down. Where like somebody like me, you know, I'll get my airbrush out and I'll just go, and I'm done. You know, there's no thinking, right? So like I feel like, well, how am I going to measure up to these guys? So I just literally was like hanging on for my dear life, painting as fast as I could and doing the best thing I could, and I tried not to look at the other people around me. That was it.
All right, hey, I want to go to Nelson, then I have a question from a legend.
Okay. Well, for me, like it's funny because like Joe Jusko, who I knew at the time, had done the entire set by himself, which was just insane, and it drove him nearly insane from what he told me. And you know, it helped build his speed. I was doing some like painted covers at the time for Marvel. I started while I was actually at SVA doing some painted covers. So I had a little bit of a kind of feeling about it. I was getting my feet wet, trying to bring these characters to life realistically. And then again, with each card, you know, was like each one was like a test of not sure about your painting skills. And then, you know, after you knocked out 2 or 3 or 4, like I said, a few of the X-Men one or the Spider-Man, I think it was Fleer Ultra Spider-Mans, I think, or they were Fleer Ultra X-Men's we started with. And I wasn't doing them they were about this big, more or less. I don't know, maybe 11 by or 10 by 13 or something like that. So they weren't huge. And then each one was just like a lesson in painting where I just got more and more confident. So I felt instead a week to do each one, and they weren't that big, but I just got really more detailed in there. But there's only so much detail you can paint into like a painting before like you're forced to not deal with it anymore, which I thought was good for me. By the time we were done, it was like a year later. And then each one was just coming so much more smoothly. And I was like less worried going into each one, where these guys kind of got maybe more kind of frazzled. I felt kind of more at ease because they came faster, smoother, easier. And it was a really great learning experience. I never spent that much.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah.
And to be able to dedicate like a year of just every day painting. And as one of the guys at Fleer said, not everyone can be a Marvel masterpiece. Just keep going, right? You know, not everyone's going to hit it out of the park, and that's okay. That's normal. We're only human. But then there are those ones where you do it and you're like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Nelson, you set up the next question perfectly because Ray Lago, the legend himself, is watching. And he
great. Hey.
You love Ray.
Ray did my favorite card of all time. The best trading card ever painted, in my opinion, is the Spider-Man one with the Gwen Stacy as he's like his fist in the Green Goblin smoke from the greatest thing ever. I wish I could have bought that. I would have sold my own soul to buy that card.
Wow. All right, we know your favorite Marvel card of all time, but Ray's question specifically, I think, is like, what's your favorite card that you did in the Masterpieces set? And then we'll go around the room. And Ray, if I got your question wrong, let me know. Just one and quick. I know
That's
you.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Amazing.
That's what I would give for that card.
Yeah. So let's start with Nelson and tell us your favorite card in the set that you did, and then go around the room.
That's a hard one. I don't know. I think I like the Dr. Octopus one. I think that's kind of a cool card. I like that one. I don't know. There, like there are a lot of. I'll have to go through them all. I'll be honest with you. I have to sit down and go through them all.
We'll do that.
Some of the ones I like, we were forced to sell. Was like in the contract that we had to give because they gave some as like a giveaway. And I remember like the Wolverine one fighting the bear, which I liked a lot. They gave that one away. I think the Silver Surfer one. Yeah, I have that one in my foyer to this day, which I like. So it's a good question.
We'll revisit it.
Some of them were just more technical of a success, and then some the characters you love more, right? Which kind of gives you a different sentimental value. It's hard for me to say. I don't know if I can. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
I got you, Dave.
I'm like right now scrolling through to look at like my work because I forget so many of them.
It's not Superman?
The ones that I really like. The ones that I really like. I like The Thing. I really because one of the things I liked about that was I figured out the perspective on the cracks. So if it went around the bend of the knee, they got compressed and I was like really proud of that, and I really like that, and I like Nightcrawler.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Nightcrawler was a lot of fun. And I like the Spider-Man one that you've got up there, and Daredevil. There's probably and I really like Namor a lot. Those
yeah.
I think there's more. There's a bunch, but those are my top 5 or so.
All right, Peter.
Forgot Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's funny. I thought you might ask that, so I actually do have an answer because I did my homework. I'm prepared. I think I did one of Venom. I did a couple of Venom, but one was a close up of his face,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of like his eye is, you can see his Eddie Brock eye. That one I really, because I love doing details, and if I can do like a portrait, like we were talking before we came on before we came on the thing here, how it's such a time saver if you can do portraits like that. Like when you got to do like the whole body and the head and the background and the city or whatever, obviously it takes much more time. So if I can do one quicker like that, like a portrait, but then lavish all the time you would have spent on the background and everything, but do it on the actual details of the portrait. And if it works, then in that case, it kind of works. So I like that one. I did a good one of Sabretooth I liked. But that would probably be the best one, I think, personally.
Awesome. We love it. Dimitri?
Well, it's a tough question. I would start with, I would say Jean Grey was one of the pieces that I think I still see it as iconic to me. Like it was, I hadn't done many female characters like that, and it worked out. It happened at a very late time. I think I was working on it till 4 or 5 in the morning, and I spent, I think, the least amount of time on that painting than all the other ones. That was done in 6 hours.
Wow.
The reference, the face, was what made the piece, because it was just a photo from some magazine, some fashion, I don't know, Cosmo or something. And I was tired, and I was looking at it. I go I'll continue tomorrow morning. And, when I get up, and then I looked at it again, I said, I don't think I want to touch that. I was afraid I was going to ruin it. So I didn't want to go tighter on it. So I left it as is. The Magneto, I think I managed to get some foreshortening that works in it. I really enjoyed that painting. And the Wolverine I liked, a lot. That unfortunately did not. It became a mirage piece and was never shown.
Wow.
And I think I went a little too tight on it on some of the details, but I just liked the piece in general and the character. But not everybody got to see it. I think it was on some promo sheets and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's images out there, and it is incredible. But the Mirage, unfortunately, you cannot pick up the art. It's an incredible card. People chase it because it's pretty rare given the amount of print. But you're right. That Wolverine piece is incredible.
Just to add one thing, Ray Lago said it comes back to what we were talking about before, our process. But Ray Lago said one thing to me, because I said, I wasn't that on some pieces. I didn't pull it off that well. Ray Lago turned around and said, well, you got paid to learn. And I literally learned a lot through this this whole thing. It pushed me to a different level.
What a lesson in saying yes, even if it's scary. That's really cool. I want to give each of you an opportunity to tell us what you have going on now. Basically, think of it as self-promotion. Let us Marvel card fans know. Can we reach you? Can we buy something from you? Do you have something going on you want us to know? I would love for you to share that today. And we'll go back around. We'll start with Dimitri and we'll work back around to Nelson.
Well, in the next month, I'll be launching my new site that's going to be only under my last name because it's going to be patelis.com. Now it just points to the old site, and I'll have more prints available. And I also launched I had a book that I put together for the trade show that I attended here in Greece, which is it has a lot of my creature work, and it's called A Realm of Perpetual Creatures, and it starts from my most recent work, and it goes all the way back to 30 years, back to 1993, and it was a limited edition, and it's still people can still get it. Some of the Marvel masterpieces are in here. I got a license for that, so don't.
I love it.
So that could be purchased or directly through me from my Facebook account or Instagram, or later on in about a month through my site at patelis.com.
Yeah, when your site's up and running, feel free to come back and we'll direct people to it.
So one thing I jumped into recently is groups that you're also, you're involved in, and all these great fans that are still, that are appreciating the work that we did from way back. And I started diving into getting into doing, small sketch cards, which is, it's even harder for me at this age to do than doing those paintings we did back then. And, I think I'll show just one to get.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's focusing, but
yeah, see it. Looks good. Looks really good.
And here I'll show you one more so you guys can move on to the next guy. I started basically doing what Dave did 30 years ago. Is
Looks awesome.
Actually doing mixed technique, acrylics, markers, airbrush, watercolor. So I think it's just a different take on on the same stuff we did back then, but with a different approach with techniques and stuff.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you. Peter, what about you?
Thanks, guys.
Well, one thing I have out there right now, if any of you happen to be in McDonald's, I did, I did an illustration on a Happy Meal box that's out right now. It's not really, don't eat it. It'll kill you. But basically, I made that mistake 2 weeks ago. But anyway, it's a Kerwin Frost. He's like an influencer, and he was, I think he was a fan of the cards, which is why, again, I was talking before we got on the air here about how I think a lot of people who were young and kids when they collected these cards are now older, and they're like art directors or people who actually get to commission stuff for jobs. So we're kind of in a sweet spot, I think, where nostalgia meets, opportunity. But also I'm working on something else, which I can't talk about because I just signed an NDA for, which I'm fully aware how douchey that sounds to say, but it's a cool project. I can't talk about. But also the thing I'm working on in between these things is I'm working on it's a graphic novel, comic book, self-published thing called Horror Vacui. And if you're interested about this stuff, I got my Instagram, which is Peter_Scanlon, and my website, which is linked on there, is www.peterscanlonart.com. So if you're interested in any of these things, check them out. I sometimes post things, but I'm terrible at doing it. So
that's all right, Peter. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Dave.
So I'm gonna be kind of douchey and say the same thing. I have a project. It is a superhero project, but I cannot say a word about it. But it's really a lot of fun, and so I'm working on that, and I'm also going to be at the Atlanta Comic-Con that's coming up on the February 8th or 9th through the 11th.
That's on top of us,
yeah. So I'll be there that weekend. That's coming up in about 2 weeks. And
are you open for commissions for that Comic-Con?
What?
Are you open for commissions for the Comic-Con?
Prior to, no, but at the convention, yeah. When I'll be setting up and working, and what else? I still do my Monster Engine stuff. I'm doing a commission right now for, I don't know if you know that stuff. It's where I take kids' drawings and I paint them. Now it's been done by so many people on the internet that nobody even remembers that I basically was one of the originators of it. So, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I just, it's something I still do. And you can find me on Facebook mostly. I have Facebook and I have Instagram, but I don't check Instagram that much. It just automatically posts to it. But if you go to, I think it's like facebook.com/the Monster Engine. And the other thing I've been doing with commissions, I've been doing like recreations in pen and ink of all the Marvel Masterpiece. If you want to see, and any trading card. So if you want to see them, I'll just post a link to it right now.
That'd be great.
It's in the chat right there. That's like all the ones that I've done so far, and it's really fun to revisit them and turn them into like things that I painted. Now I'm doing in pen and ink, and you have to figure out how to get those gradients to work. Going from dark to light, or whatever, and a lot of fun. And so I do those, and that's pretty much it. I'm a full-time high school teacher too. Just like Pete, we're both high school teachers. And so that takes up a lot of my time during the year. And then in the summer, I tend to put my illustrator hat, full time again, and during the school year, I do it limited amount, but the project I'm working on right now is keeping me connected to the comic industry. So.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
All right. I also teach, I teach at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. Which is a great cartooning and comic book school. I have a lot of other teachers there. We got Klaus Jansen was teaching there, and Dave Mazzucchelli, Jamal Eigel, Aletha Martinez and stuff. So that's really cool, but it's not full-time like these guys do. So it's like a few days a week, which is nice, which allows me to do some stuff. Right now, I just I'm almost done with a project called Mega Droid, which is a actual comic and heavy metal record, an album where the songs and stuff are based, the comics are based on the songs and vice versa. So whatever part of the story is on the CD, then it continues in the comic book and then returns to another song, things like that. So it's a whole universe. If you did like an Avengers record and each song was about Iron Man or Thor or this and that, and then you had comics based on those things, but they're all, again, part of the same universe. So we just did a Kickstarter for that, which was successfully funded. So comic book's done. Just got to finish a cover for that, and that's going to be sent off to the printer along with the CDs and stuff like that. Got another record that's about half in the bag right now for a stop-motion animated project called The Mash, which is like a punk rock monster band. I'm doing all the songs and for that, which was actually with a student of mine who does the stop motion animation, really talented guy named Peter Keene. That's probably the next thing. And still, before that, I just did like the Batman Fortnite crossover with Riley Brown, which was like a super big seller kind of thing. So, just still doing, I had some issues with my hands. I had some carpal tunnel issues, which kind of slowed me down for a while. So I wasn't as busy as I used to be. But now that I got the surgery and stuff, I'm kind of really hitting up much more work in comics again, rather than taking the time. And I also did some soundtracks for movies and some things like that. So that kind of took me away from comics a little bit, but just totally always keeping busy with something. So, and I should be probably doing a lot more of the Mega Droid stuff this summer. And I'll be doing probably a lot of shows promoting that. So I hope to see you guys out there on the road, unlike the last few years where I could just kind of stay and kind of keep it busy.
Awesome. Dimitri, do you have something you were going to show real quick, and then we'll wrap up?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Well, I got caught up with a lot of advertising work throughout the years, but then I just started, picking up and working on one of my favorite characters. So I want to show like the guys what I've been working on now.
Wow.
So I kind of changed my,
Is that done? Is that Procreate?
I started it with Clip Studio,
right?
And then I just went, I think, a little crazy in Procreate.
Yeah. It's one of the nice things. You can zoom in really tight and just keep adding details and more
Yeah.
details and more details.
So I've prepared a few images like these with Venom, some new stuff, some new material, and I wanted to basically, you know, kind of submit them and tickle somebody's, you know, interest in or Upper Deck or Marvel or some, you know. So I just started putting together some additional work that it's not like this Venom here.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, Dimitri, I always tell you have an incredible resume, but that doesn't hurt. That's for sure. Well, look, guys,
Thanks,
time-wise,
guys.
unfortunately, have to wrap it up. I would love to have you all back on soon because I think there's a lot more that we could enjoy and hear from you. And then maybe we could just start keeping up with you and what you have going on. I think if we can serve you in any way. We have a live audience here. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. I want to give a big thanks to these
Well, thanks, guys.
All right. We have some legends here.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. Thanks.
Guys,
appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun.
It was.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
appreciate you a lot. And Nelson, I love to hear the stuff about the Megadroid. I'm doing the same thing too with the music and comics. You know, I do music as well. So
Oh, cool. Hit me up.
that man, because it sounds awesome.
Hit me up. Definitely. We'll talk.
Yep. I want to see who has more guitars, me or you.
I don't know. I got that. Do you have a Spider-Man guitar though? That's signed by Stan Lee and John Romita Jr. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thanks
Well,
again.
thank-
Everybody
thanks
in the room for a big grin on their face. Everyone on the YouTube channel was just
Yeah, here.
Well,
Here we
That's
go.
fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate you guys getting the band back together.
Hey.
Well, thank you.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Awesome,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
thanks for watching at home.
Yeah. Look, thank
All
you
right,
guys.
take care.
Everybody, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. I want to give a big thanks to OAX. This is the original Art Expo, and they made this possible and gave us a space to feature Marvel card original art right alongside of like original art for the Lord of the Rings from Hildebrand. Like, that's incredible. Rosetta, I mean, it's right here, and look, it fits right in. It's not out of place at all. Big thanks for those who brought the original art. It's a lot of work and really risky, and they made it happen so people could enjoy it. And again, big thanks to the artists for creating it so we can continue to enjoy it. So please don't stop creating. Really do appreciate that. Everybody, thank you for watching. And as always, I hope you have a marvelous day.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.
Talk to you guys later.